All right, now I got an agenda. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and call the meeting of December the 16th of the OHV Advisory Board to order. And I'll ask that I defer off to one of you guys to do a roll call for me, probably whichever one of you guys
roll call.
Yeah.
Officer Desi Ortiz got roll call. So Advisory Board Chairman Rick Alcon.
Present.
Off-Highway Vehicle Board Member Vice Chair Stephen Henry.
Here. Present.
Off-Highway Vehicle Board Member John Diamond. Off-Highway Vehicle Board Member Gerald Chacon. Off-Highway Vehicle Board Member John Montjoy. And Off-Highway Vehicle Board Member Randy Jones.
Okay. No guests, it doesn't look like. So with that, we'll go into the general OHV program update. Matt?
Thank you. Do I have the ability to share screen?
Yes, you do.
Saying it's disabled.
Give me 1 second. We'll pull it. There you go.
Found it. Yay.
For what it's worth, Matt, your background is disabling your head on a regular basis. It's leaving your body.
Nice.
But we can see your screen now.
Perfect. I'll be providing a lot of the just general update and current status of the OHV Trail Safety Fund. As the end of October this year, we're finally up over $948,000. That's cash balance, what's available. Revenue that we from July through August is just over $300,000 that was actually put into the Trail Safety Fund. It almost doubled since the last meeting that we had in October. So that was a good thing. It is a 50% legislative year, and now we have a full budget that we can spend. And as of the end of October, we've spent about just under $140,000. And that's, not only salaries, but encumbrances like the OHV grants, which are reported last meeting of just over $36,000. And we also have some POs out there where we bought some OHV signage for about $20,000. And we're actually doing a radio and digital advertisement campaign, which is about $22,000. And we're still waiting for our off-highway vehicle law enforcement booklets from state printing, which is going to run us about $12,000. What's been going on since the last meeting of October 14th, on the request from Rick Alcone, from the chair, was to come up with some OHV posters, which we did purchase from state printing, that we are efforting, or I should say Desi's efforting to get to the OHV industry in the state of New Mexico. As he goes and does OHV patrols, as well as welcome centers, government offices. We already have them at our area offices, even though that they're currently closed to the public. The area offices do have these posters that have general information, OHV information, for the customers to access. Like I said, the law enforcement booklets, we were given a date of today for them being done. We ordered 5,000 of them. There's some issues with the laminating. There was an issue with getting the dies to cut the tabs correctly. So it seems like this whole project keeps on being pushed back about a month. So they have a handful of them ready now that we can go pick up. But when the completed order happens, who knows? I have been working on a neck gaiter order. This is a little old because the full order has been met. Last Friday, Desi picked up the last third that was finally made and sent to us from that vendor. There was a few obstacles with that vendor. I mean, they have pretty good product at the end of the day, but there was a lot of obstacles to get that completed. Desi's been working on getting some metal signs for the state of New Mexico, primarily warnings about OHVs prohibited in these areas. And there's usually a pretty good outcry from everybody, whether it's law enforcement or just government agencies, where they could put some prohibited OHV signs up. So we've made a small investment and ordered 4 different types of metal signs, which I think, Desi, did you pick those up already?
They'll be ready tomorrow, so I'll go pick them up at 1 o'clock.
Very good. We are current and advertising our grant application, OHV grant applications. This year, we are accepting email versions. Normally in the past, historically, we've asked people to put together a grant package that had several copies of their grant and what they're applying for and stuff. And so we did away with that, and we're accepting emails for the first time. So hopefully this is going to increase the volume of people wanting to apply for our grants. We've been letting everybody know that we know that has received these historically to let them know, hey, we're running these until the end of March. So get your grants in, get your applications in, and it's still the 2 types of grants: the one for the law enforcement overtime, and then any pertinent OHV grant for the other ones. Earlier I mentioned having the digital radio OHV advertisements. We now have the radio proposal. We've cut the PO, thank you, Rose, for that. And if not today, tomorrow, we had 3 15-second spots that are going to start on KOB radio, like 770 and Sports Animal and some of those, TJ Trout Show. So there's 3 commercials that were, or 15-second spots, which is about 45 words, that was approved by our chain. And that is moving forward and progressing. We just recently, Rose finished the PO for the digital proposal, which has been forwarded to the company, and I've reached out to our communications director, and we're starting to build a digital advertisement design. We're going to run them, 30-day advertisements, stuff on social media like Facebook. So that's pushing forward. That I was kind of waiting on the PO on that one and get that one started, but that one's really starting to pick up speed. So they both are kind of hitting at the same time, which is a good thing. We've had many issues for the paved road use, a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of people automatically assuming, hey, a law was passed, I could go do this, and they haven't really read the law. So the big effort here currently is to get that information out about the paved road stuff and hit the pause button, and it's like, hey, you really need to understand the law, and here's where you could go look for it, and hopefully address some of those issues that we've been hearing about. Currently working on employee evaluation closeouts, because it is coming to the end of the calendar year. Of course, January we'll start the new employee evaluations, but for all the good efforts that my staff has done, Desi as well as Chris, I appreciate all their efforts, and we're coming to a close on those as required by the state. For the calendar year, last meeting, I told you that we had 17 OHV accidents that we were aware of. I only have 1 to report since that time, since the last meeting. So there's a total of 18 now. But October 18th, 2020, Eddy County Police report, a 15-year-old male was involved in an ATV accident with injuries. They were doing CPR, and they reported blood was coming out of his nose, and he was airlifted to El Paso. Nothing else to report because it became a Texas report. So I tried to talk to some of the officers, and they just didn't know what the extent or the final result of the injuries were, and if he was recovering. But he did have a broken arm and unknown internal injuries, and it did happen on Guadalupe Ridge Road, also known as New Mexico 412. So as far as our OHV law enforcement patrols and trainings and what Desi's been keeping pretty busy with, he was pivotal in helping update the OHV grants for the next fiscal year. He recently taught 6 officers out of the Pewaukee Police Department the ROV trainings that he does. And like I said, he's been traveling New Mexico as a part of his OHV patrols, and he will disseminate those posters, those OHV posters, to whomever we think would benefit for getting that information out. He's also ordered the metal signage because he gets a lot of calls from law enforcement agencies for this type of signage that they can utilize. And the messages are primarily no OHVs beyond this point, none on pavement, ATV use is prohibited, kind of the stuff that gets requested from him is kind of what we stuck with. He did recertify his defensive driving course, which is a requirement by all state employees every 4 years. As far as the off-highway education section for the calendar year, please know for the 2020 calendar year, there was 11 hands-on classes offered. 5 of them had to be canceled, 2 pre-COVID and 3 because of COVID. With that stat, there was 25 students that passed the courses, and 13 were incomplete because they had to be canceled, and there was one no-show. 7 ATV classes were offered, 3 were canceled, 2 of them were for agencies and 2 of them were for the public. We had 2 ROV classes in Elfin Butte Fire Department and the Air Force Base with the EOD contractor. That's an interesting one with the Air Force Base. They're looking at doing something on their property and becoming instructors for us because they feel like there's a huge need for ROVs. I guess they've had a wreck or 2 that's really got the chain of command pushing for this effort. Desi's been in talks with them, and we're looking at the near future of having some more plans with the Kirtland Air Force Base, which was pretty exciting, I thought. Desi's still allowed to provide these trainings to first responders as long as all the COVID requirements are being met. So he's been pivotal in that. And Los Lunas, our guys down in Los Lunas who are instructors, the open space officers down there have conducted 1 public class. They never shut down. So they're fully functional. They report to their offices every day. And if they have a public need, they're keeping pretty good spacing with the kids. And obviously the kids are wearing helmets and goggles, and they're on machines, and they're, more than 6 feet apart as they're conducting those trainings. But when the 2 kids do get together, like if they have to take the test or they're grabbing something to drink or maybe having a little bite or a little snack, they're pretty good about keeping them separated more than 6 feet. So that's good news. They haven't really stopped. So for the calendar year in 2019 online training, we had 526 students that did the online training. This year we have 533 as of November. So we still don't have December numbers. So we have increased that, which is always good. All of our public outreach events continue to be canceled. And before the shutdown, Safety Sam visited 2 schools, reaching about 250 people. That was really starting to pick up some steam. The word was getting out. Everybody's pretty excited to have Safety Sam. Now we also have a Safety Sarah, as you guys know. Whenever we get out of these COVID shutdowns, it'll be nice to kind of get that up and running again, because it was a pretty exciting, proactive approach to bring in an OHV message and hopefully get people excited to attend some of our trainings. Central agency training continues as requested. And like I said, like the Air Force Base, they're working with Los Lunas, they're working with DESI, and hopefully we could come up with a pretty good plan to get those guys to be instructors and also to train their personnel on their properties. So that's an eventful thing, but that's it in a nutshell. I know it's pretty short and sweet. We just recently had a meeting in October, but I'm willing to entertain any questions, or my staff can as well.
I have a couple, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Am I unmuted, Lance?
Yes, you are.
All right. So do we have a copy, Matt, or a sample of the radio spots or the digital message? Can you get a copy of that to us?
I could get you a copy of the radio ones that were approved, and the digital is still being built.
Okay. Yeah, if we could see that, that would be good. Just as a comment to Desi on the paved road use thing, we've just experimented with a lot of different ways to try and communicate how paved road is legal, but not really legal, kind of thing, in our stores. And I don't think I've shared this with you yet, but as far as sharing it with you, we've got the best results by continuing to reinforce the fact that according to state law, that OHV use on paved roads is not legal. And we make that very emphatic. But that state law allows local jurisdictions to create an ordinance that would supersede state law. And people seem to relate to that a little bit more than the state law. The state lets the law work in certain areas and not in other areas. They don't kind of get that. But when we kind of create this overarching state law says no OHVs are on pavement except to cross the road legally from one riding area to another, but check for local ordinances that may be allowed under state law that would expand on that. So for what it's worth, that's been the message we're communicating that seems to resonate the best with our customers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The posters are good. We have that up. We like them. So I thank you for doing that. I see people over there taking a look at them. We point to it when they're in the investigating stages of buying a product, or have just bought a product, or even bought a product from somebody else. That's good. And the replenishment of flyers, that's good as well. That we hand those out with each one of our deals. If I had an edit to make on it, I have one right here. If I had an edit to make on it for the next round, something for you to think about is in kind of big bold letters, either on the face here, or I take and write it. Every time I give one of these out, I write right here, beforeyouride.com. That's the easiest, catchiest, way to expand on this. It's in here. There's no doubt it's in here, but there's a lot of words in here and people don't always, it's on the front page. I get it, but it's an easy way for us as dealers when we hand this to them and say, hey, look, here's all the information in here. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here. And, rather than on this line right here, we say, point to the back and we say, or we write it, we say, beforeyouride.com gets you all the information. Particularly, we point to that to say, hey, if you want to check these ordinances out, this is where you get the real information at. So just more predominantly featuring that beforeyouride.com.
Okay.
Not a problem, but just some food for thought. I too have had some reach out from Kirtland Air Force Base on their current situation with, OHV. I think they did have an accident or two out there. The good news is it really seems like the leadership out there is interested in not interested in killing the activity, but promoting the safety, which is a very positive direction, I think, for him to go. And because these things aren't going to go away, they got tons and tons of them out there themselves they're using. And so it wasn't just a recreational issue. It was, work issue. How do we make that safer in our work environment, our essential services, that kind of stuff. So I encourage you to stay on top of that and really provide them whatever support we can provide them, because he seems to be heading down the right path, in my opinion, to really promote the safety side of it. Last thing is that I'll just say, hey, the budget looks good right now. Obviously, it's expanded. It's replenished from the previous thievery that we've talked about. But understand we're kind of an unusual situation, and there's a lot of things in this world right now that are up, and there's a lot of things in this world right now that are down. And one of the things that's up right now is sales of OHV product. So the fact that it's the budget's up this year is not necessarily indicative of where it might be for 21. So just be careful about that in terms of how you budget, what you think the revenue stream is going to be going forward. We got two big issues in our industry, and one is huge supply chain issues. So we have no product to sell. And second, I shouldn't say no, but we have a real diminished supply chain. And then two, we've had such an abundance of sales. Have we pulled forward a bunch of sales that may potentially have happened next year? Possibly. So we just need to be careful with how we budget for that going forward. So I think that's pretty much you referred to something else. You referred to a training brochure or something like that I didn't know what that was.
That's our, go ahead.
No, is it law enforcement one or something?
Yeah, it's the off-highway vehicle law enforcement booklet that we actually give to law enforcement officers, whether they work for state parks, PD, sheriff, state police, game wardens. It's kind of a breaks down the whole OHV Act and bite-sized tabs. So if someone an officer has a situation, they can use that as a quick field guide to answer whatever situation or question they may have when it comes to the OHV Act.
Okay, no problem. That's what I thought it was, but I just didn't know that for sure. I'd never seen that before because obviously it's not on the public side. So just was curious. And I think that's all the questions I had. Steve, did you have any questions?
No, I'm doing fine. That's good, interesting information that you had. I'm glad to see that you guys all stayed busy and got some things accomplished, even with COVID slowing everything down everywhere.
Yep, good job. Good, especially to you, Desi, I know you've been running around doing a lot of the legwork for everybody else who has kind of been shut down by the department. So we appreciate what you've done.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All righty. I don't know that we have any general public on, but if we do, please signal to us or reach out to us.
We have at least a couple who are participating, and if they're interested in speaking, if they would either raise their hand virtually for us or shoot us a message in the chat, I can connect you. And give them just a second to do that.
Sure.
And it doesn't seem like any of the participants wish to do. Well, I'm gonna stand back. I take that back. We have Commissioner Bates, and he has been unmuted.
Thank you, Lance. Hey, very informative meeting tonight. Thank you, guys. Just curious, on the training classes that were canceled, have those been rescheduled?
No, not at this time.
I assume that was just COVID related.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the big things is trying to think outside the box to how to have those kind of trainings a little safer, because we do have kids that wear safety helmets and goggles, and they usually wear a onesie jumpsuit if they show up, like in, let's say, shorts and a tank top. So, you know, we were looking at, I got some neck gaiters where they can actually wear over their nose and their mouth. Potentially, maybe we could have trainings that way, because even when they're on the machines, they're pretty spread out. And you know, come up with a plan, write up a plan on how that will work, and get it to our chain of command so they could review it and see if, you know, potentially we could do something like that. At least that's my plan. But like I said, we just barely got our gator shipment last Friday. It took a lot longer than I thought it would take, but that was the first obstacle I needed to overcome to go to the next step.
Sounds good. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And I think we addressed that a little bit at the last meeting as well. And that is, I would continue to encourage you to, in your write-up and your attempt to convince the chain of command, if you will, that this is a safe activity, that even though these kids are, they have these safety items on, they're not sharing them. And for the most part, they're really not taking them off. So they put them on to begin the class. They stay on most of the time. They're retained in their possession until everything's completely done. So I don't think there's a real sanitation risk, and that somebody else would put the helmet on after them and potentially, you know, spread virus. I don't think there's a real safety risk to the instructors if they're, you know, using a little bit of precaution with sanitation, you know, materials, sprays, whatever, as the kid takes it off and turns it in, to put that back into the trailer, because again, it's going to be a week before it's used again. The virus don't last that long on that equipment, even if, you know, nonetheless, we should be sanitizing it so the handlers don't have any issues. I think, and I don't know if this is a real obstacle for you, Matt, or not, but, you know, making sure that probably the least protected person in that entire process is the trainer. And that's a person you can control. And so being able to create the right procedure protocol for executing on those classes, you know, creates it fills a vital need in the community that didn't go away just because COVID exists. There's probably more potential, you know, this COVID's not a youth disease by all accounts, but ATV accidents can be. And so we don't want to wait the problem to create a bigger problem for the youth of our community. So I just encourage you to continue to push that, continue to be that sounding horn for the youth, that that we can get that training done as and back on track as soon as possible.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Rick,
Chairman Alcorn. Go ahead.
that's a good point. And I'm all ears. If I can be of help, you know, give me a shout.
Thank you.
All righty. I think that's it for the comments. So if there's no other comments, Lance, that you see,
That's it.
we will establish the dates for the next, or general dates for the next meeting. Matt, if you have a suggestion.
Well, I was wondering if it would behoove us to maybe have the next meeting around April, where the OHV Advisory Board can actually participate in grading the grants that get submitted. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now, tentatively. I don't know what exactly that date would look like, but how do you feel about that, Chairman?
I think it'd be great. Obviously, it either would have to, you know, I don't know that by April we're going to be able to meet in person or not, but that would be a lot better process if we were able to do that. If we weren't, then, you know, maybe you and I can talk about ways to disseminate, you know, those grant requests virtually, or, you know, through the internet or scanned or something like that, so that we could kind of review them in advance even, and then open discussion about them during that meeting if necessary. after everybody's had a chance to pre-review those. But even if we're going to meet virtually, I think pre-review is important, that we're not seeing them for the first time in a scheduled 1 hour environment or 2 hour environment. But I would welcome the opportunity to do that and have the board provide feedback if that's what you guys would like for us to do.
Okay, so let's plan that. I'll go ahead and reach out to you as we approach that timeline, and we'll come up with the plan kind of based on your comments just now.
Okay. One last thing, and I just remembered it. I'm sorry, it should have been on the previous agenda, but you mentioned that the legislative session was a 50-50 session. What did you mean by that?
It's a 50% legislative year, which means that state agencies cannot spend more than 50% of their budgets
Okay. I
by the end of
I
December.
didn't know. I didn't think you. I'm used to hearing legislative years referred into short session, long session, or 30-day, 60-day, and I couldn't figure out what you were talking about with that. But I get it now.
I apologize.
It was in the context of the budget. No potential or OHV issues that you see on the horizon.
The only thing that kind of touched my radar is whenever I had the meeting with Espanola, the village or the city of Espanola. Whenever I was talking to their, that was a town hall meeting that they had, that they're very upset that the paved road law would not allow them to access the different highways that run through their city limits. So several of them had different ideas of who to talk to support a bill this legislative session. But a couple of them didn't know Senator Novell.
Yeah.
San Juan. So they're definitely going to reach out to him again. So I don't know if anything's going to come of it, because they would have to reopen that statute to include OHV usage on highways. But that is the only thing that I've heard that could happen or may happen.
Fair enough. Been there, have the scars from that debate. Talk to you. Thank you very much for bringing that to us. All right. So board meetings established, not a specific date, but generalized in the April timeframe. And obviously we could deal with any, legislative issues, concerns, stuff that happened during the session we could deal with at that time as well. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn. Probably Mr. Henry, but that would be you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right, hearing no objection, so it is. All right,
Okay.
gentlemen, thank you very much. Again,
Thank
I
you,
apologize that I
guys.
missed the start of it.